Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Vision Committee meeting for August the 20th, 2025. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Here.
Councilmember Maloney?
Here.
Councilmember Schmisher?
Here.
Councilmember Stein?
Here.
Councilmember Tracy? Absent. Mayor Pro Tem
Here.
Let me go back a little bit. How about Councilmember Worthington?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Here.
Mayor Troutman?
Did you call Mayor Troutman?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We're here in spirit.
Thank you. So this evening, we're here to talk about, according to my agenda, discussion on the water rate structure. And we'd like to turn this over to Travis and.
Yeah, before we
Go
turn
ahead.
it over to Travis, just a reminder that we talked about water rate structure earlier this year. We looked at having Raftellus do a breakdown. I think the discussion at that time was, there's the adjusted cost of service and the cost of service, and Travis is going to go through the recap of all that, but just a reminder that that's where this started, and we're coming back to go through the details. And Travis?
Thank you. So as City Council may remember, like Ryan said, the water rate structure was last discussed at the February 5th General Government meeting. As requested by City Council, staff has prepared a 3-year step-in to get to the cost of service option provided by the rate study. We'll get to that a little bit later. As this is a staff-prepared 3-year step analysis, it may not be quite as robust as one that would be done by Raftellus, and that Raftellus proposal was a little bit pricey for our blood. We didn't want to quite pay the extra amount for that. Staff also ran an analysis on anticipated costs to both the golf course and city accounts if the 3-year cost of service option is selected. This analysis is based on 2024 consumption for both accounts. There's no guarantee that future consumption will match past consumption, but the numbers provide a pretty good scope on what the impacts may be. So the city accounts paid for by the Parks Department would be year one, $56,435, year two, $112,871, and year three, $169,307 for a total impact of $338,615 over the full 3-year step-in. Golf course would be year one, $46,745, year two, $93,491, and year three, $140,800 for a total impact of $281,036 over the 3 years. The golf course has indicated that they would be open to negotiations for keeping the water rate at current structure subject to normal water rate increases. And as a reminder, there is the option of selecting the adjusted cost of services, which would not lower any user groups' rates. Those savings would then be applied to offset other user groups' rate increases. So what we're looking for in this meeting is clear direction from council on how to proceed with the rate structure ordinance. A major impact to general funds I'll just read it. General fund budgets could have a large impact on them based on the direction chosen, and staff will need to have an idea of how to budget going forward. So for clarity, option one would be no change to current water rate structure. Option two would be the 3-year phasing in of the full cost of service, including the pump zone surcharges and meter fees. And option three would be the adjusted cost of service to include the adjusted cost of service rates for the pump zone surcharges and meter fees. Also need the yes or no on the private line fire rates, new fixed rates. So if the adjusted cost of service were selected, I'm going to switch to this because it's easier for me to read. Staff would want to do some changes in some language when it comes to code. So in dealing with some of the other negotiations with the golf course rates, I came across the actual definition in our code for golf course rates, which I thought was interesting enough that I would add it into this presentation, and I'll read it verbatim. Because golf courses within the department's water service area have been and will remain open to public play for local inhabitants, offer unique recreational opportunities, enhance quality of life, generate tourism, and otherwise foster growth and economic development, the department has deemed it to be the public interest for water rates charged to golf courses to have been less than prevailing rates charged to other non-residential water users. It is the department's goal to bring water rates for golf courses into parity with those applicable to other non-residential water users and uses, but the department seeks to achieve such parity over a period of years in order to avoid situations where increased costs of water coupled with other difficult economic circumstances could force the closure of one or more golf courses and the community's loss of those unique public benefits enumerated in the subsection. Accordingly, unless otherwise specified by valid contract, water rates for all water sold by the department to golf courses shall be set as forth in Schedule K. So I think it's really important that that was added into our code because it really illustrates that the department sees the economic value of golf courses and want to be very careful when we're adjusting their rates to not cause any undue harm and cause the golf courses to go out of the area. So Schedule K, the actual golf course rate under that schedule reads as follows. Unless otherwise agreed in writing or required pursuant to contract, Shadow Hills Golf Club and 4 Mile Ranch Golf Course shall pay a monthly meter charge as provided for in Part 1 of this schedule and for water consumption according to the rates set forth in Part 2 of this schedule. So again, with the golf course rates, I think it's important to recognize that a desire is there to raise the rates of the golf course, but not where it would risk closure of the golf course. It also recognizes the benefit should only be available to public golf courses. I think that's a very important thing, and that came from an ordinance in 2010, so 15 years ago. If the adjusted cost of service option were selected, staff would like to change the language in Schedule K to read all public golf courses. So take out the names of Shadow Hills and 4 Mile and just read public golf courses. Right, so any special rate or any adjusted rate would be for a public golf course. And so how do we define a public golf course? Then we would go to the language provided in the First Amendment to the annexation agreement with 4 Mile. And really the important parts of those read no more than 20% of all available daily tee times in the aggregate would be reserved for residents of a PDD. I'll take out the 4 Mile because the language would be changed to the exclusions of citizens of Fremont County who are not residents of the district, subject to the golf course's right to offer from time to time discrete promotional rates or marketing programs to residents of the PDD, to non-residents of the PDD who reside within Fremont County, and to non-residents of Fremont County. Regular published green fees for non-residents of the PDD who live in Fremont County shall not be more than 20% greater than regular published green fees charged to any resident of the district for the same or similar rights and privileges. So I think that's really good language for defining a public golf course, or what the guardrails should be on a golf course that it be deemed public. If they don't remain public, then they would be regular non-residential rates. This is fairly important because this information that resides in the First Amendment to the annexation agreement, the enforcement of that public play really went out the window with the change in 2010 of the golf course rate definition. Because the enforcement of the annexation agreement was changing the rate from the Shadow Hills rate to the regular applicable rate. Golf course rate right now is their regular applicable rate, so there's really no enforcement that the city has to keep the golf course public right now. I also put the definitions of the city rates in there because they also reference the benefit of the inhabitants of the city, and Schedule L, the city rate, which I would not propose to change. So this is what was provided to all of you in the memo. Gosh, I apologize. I thought it would be much clearer up there. But it really lays out the option 1, option 2, and option 3 that was asked for by council back in February. Option 1, again, being no change. Option 2 being the 3-year phased-in cost of service. And option 3 being just the adjusted cost of service, again, where no group user rates go down and those savings are used to mitigate the increases of other group users. In the second box, I did add in what those rates would look like with anticipated 7% rate increases. And then the third box being the pump zones. Again, option 1, doing nothing, option 2 being the phase-in cost of service, and the option 3 of adjusted cost of service. So I think I'll stop yapping there and start taking kind of any questions. So again, we're kind of looking for a clear direction on whether we want option 1, 2, or 3. So I'll leave this up here I thought it was kind of helpful to have a color-coded option 1, 2, or 3 of what we're talking about.
So, option 1 that I see is the way it is now.
Correct.
When we go within that option box, you have options 1, 2, and 3. Then, okay, then you go down the group, and in the middle it says user group, the bigger thing. What's that?
So the user groups are the different types of users that we bill different rates for. You have residential, non-residential, multi-city, golf, and group users are consecutive systems like Brookside and Orchard Park.
But I don't understand this at all. At what rate would you have? What would we choose when you have the top one there, whatever you want to call that, user group residential, and then you have user group residential again, tier 1, 2, and 3, and it seems like, what would the rate be?
Mr. Mayor,
ahead.
with the top one is the rates at the 2025 rate classes, or the 2025 rates. The one in the middle, that second one, that shows the rates with the 7% increase for 2026.
Okay. And what about the last one, the pump zones and stuff? Is that an add-on to those rates, or what is it?
So the pump zones are where, if any user resides in an area that's served by a pump station, they have an added rate onto their water bill for the increased costs that are incurred by us having to pump water to them.
Okay, so if we started out in the top here, option 3, in green, let's just use a user group, whatever that is, $4.80. That's per thousand, right?
That is per 1,000 gallons,
Okay.
yes, per month.
And then the next, going down user group, that's the one, that would be 514. That would be the 7% increase. $5.14 user group, it says.
Yes, for 2026 with a 7% increase, that user group would be paying $5.14 per 1,000 gallons.
514.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing 514, so I'm
Oh, is it 516?
516, sure, yes.
I think
Yeah.
he's looking in the green column.
Green columns.
So it's just
I've got
I
514.
think
Okay.
it's 514.
Yeah, I got 514. And then with that, then we'd add 57 cents for, in case that property was in the upper, mid, or lower Dawson Ranch. And then so, we'd add pump zone 3. Pump zone 3, if you're in that upper Dawson, we'd add $1.79 per gallon. So we would take a residential price, and the average would be let's say 5 to 12,000 gallons. It'd be at the increase of 7%, be $4.84. And then we would go down here to, if I lived in Upper Dawson Ranch, I'd have to add another $1.79 because of the pump station. So now we're about $7 a gallon per thousand. If we simply stay at the first option, at that user group of 5,000 to 12,000, we're staying at $4.52. Then we have to add on the $1.79 to it?
Yeah, you would still have to add on the pump zone. I mean, that's a current charge right now.
And that's not suggested changing. The only 7% increase is the actual raw water cost.
Yeah, and that's going to be a separate conversation, right? So the water rate increases are not water rate structure. So the 7% increase will come in later, and that's going to be across the board for every user group. That's the way that it's
Then
always been.
What are we talking about tonight then? I'm lost. I looked at this and looked at this, and how could we expect a civilian, a citizen out there to have any cognition of what's going on here?
Yeah, it's very complex. This was the way that I was trying to distill it to be as palatable as possible, and I apologize.
All right,
if
let's
it's
go
not.
back to today and say I use 12,000 gallons. Which option do I use at that time? $4.32. That's today, today's rate.
Correct.
If we went ahead and did the 7% increase, we'd go to $4.52.
Not quite. So you're-
442,
So
452.
what,
Going once, going twice?
okay, so the very first column in the light orangish or peach is what our existing rates are. Option 3 is the adjusted cost of service based on what Raftillis had said. The copy of that presentation is at the back. It is actually included in here. And they explain what the adjusted cost of service was doing. When we were looking at the rate study, we were trying to figure out a more equitable way to charge everybody. So the adjusted cost of service did not fully make the groups that it still kind of spreads out the costs to everybody and not have it based on the adjusted cost. It adjusts it over all the classes, and some subsidize the other categories still. The blue is the cost of service model, which that one is trying to make it where each class pays their fair share. And with the adjusted cost of service, some rates, or the cost of service, not the adjusted, would have some rates going up and some rates going down until they balanced out where that group was paying for what it costs us to actually service, to provide the service to those groups. Council had mentioned that if we did the cost of service method, that it would have been a significant increase to do it all in 1 year. And so it was suggested that we look at it as a 3-year phased in. That's why the blue has 26, 27, and 28. So the increase from 25 to what it should be in 28 was spread equally over those 3 years. So no matter which section we go with, so the top is just saying we're implementing the new rate study, and breaking them into those categories. The middle section is implementing on top of that phased-in approach or going to the new rate structure, the additional 7% that the rate study said we need for the next 10 years. So that's what the big difference is between 1 and 2, and then, or between the top section and the middle section, and then the differences between option 1, option 2, and option 3. And so what we're trying to figure out, or get direction from council, is are we wanting to have each of the user groups pay their fair share and phase it in, or do we want to have a blended amount, a blended rate, which is that option 3 in green? Is that
I have one question. I don't know, if you look at the middle block, multi-unit, 2028, it actually goes down.
So with that, again, with.
Oh, was that on
with the-
purpose?
Yes,
That was
that's
on
on
purpose.
purpose. So with
Okay.
that cost of service, some user groups would go down because the water rate study has deemed that they're paying more than their fair share currently.
Okay, and then between the three options, option one is just leaving everything as is, which doesn't fix anything, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right, I'm pretty clear on this one,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you.
One more question.
Yep.
The top box, option three, adjusted cost of service, I see that some of them, that would be a change until we discuss this again. They would stay at that rate.
Correct.
The middle one is if we did a 7%
Yes.
increase.
Yes, I mean, every year, we're going to be talking about 7% increases on top of this water rate structure change, potential change.
Yes, so basically, no matter which option we go with, staff will still come back to council and request an additional increase on top of the existing rate every year. The study calls for the 7% for the next 10 years, on top of however we redistribute the rates on our structure.
So option three in the middle is just year one would be a 7%, and then it would be discussed every year after
Correct.
that? Whereas, as opposed to doing a 3-year plan?
Yeah, because the way that our ordinance is set up, we can't do a 3-year adjustment. We have to do it year by year. So even if we chose option 2, it would have to still be approved by future councils every year. So we can say in a resolution, this is our intent, and we can do it for 2026. But in 2027, we would probably do a resolution this year that we would then reference in 2027 and say, previous council approved this is what we'd like to do, but it still has to be approved via ordinance.
Does option three in the top column accomplish what we need to accomplish?
It does for this year,
For one-
and
for
we'll
1
still
year.
have the conversation of whether council wants to go forward with a 7% increase, but yes, it accomplishes the water rate restructuring.
Okay, thank you.
Tim, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Travis. And, I think one thing we really all got to be comprehensive of is, there's other things that are going to be coming up too. And, for us to just raise and raise and raise, I have a problem with just different things. I'm not saying this in the water, and I'm not saying, but on all of it, I think all of us really got to think about everything that's being asked very recently. And I hope we all just kind of keep that in our minds and remember, we're not the ones paying for all this.
Amy, go ahead.
Thanks. I'm sure it won't come as a surprise to anyone that I'm a strong proponent of option 2, which is the fair share. Everybody pays for what they use. Right now, every business in town is subsidizing the golf course and the golf course's water bill, and that's not right. And if we're going to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, then I think each user, whether it's a resident, a business, the city, or even the golf course, needs to pay for what they're using. And if there's a case to be made for giving the golf course a discount on their water bill for economic reasons as outlined in Schedule K, then I think that we need to fund that out of our economic development line item so that it's really clear as to what's going on and why we're doing that, as opposed to hiding it in the water bill of every other business in town. We shouldn't be in the business of picking winners and losers, and I think that if we think that the golf course is a huge economic driver for this town, then we need to fund it out of the economic development account. So I'm for option 2.
Okay, I would just like to make a comment. I realize that it's getting harder and harder for families to, groceries have gone through the roof, everything. But here's the issue. If we do not initiate these level raises for the next 10 years, then some council down the road is going to be faced with a horrible choice. Because the city, we're not a wealthy city. We cannot afford to subsidize water. And that's what's going to happen. And I also, I agree with Amy too, that it should be a fair share, and, you know, businesses shouldn't be made, because the businesses are having a hard enough time, you know, with all the expenses they have. I totally agree with that. But I think for us to say, well, times are hard and we can't raise the rates, you know, I don't know, you know, some of you have been to the water meetings and seen exactly what this study was, and you've been to those. We don't have a lot of choice going forward for us to maintain water service, and we live in a mountain community where we do have to pump uphill to service some of our residents. So it's expensive, and we can't absorb it. That's the reality. And, you know, people will be upset about it, but they'd also be upset if we had to cut back water service, which is another option that we might down the road. But I'm saying some council down the road, if we do nothing, is going to have a really hard choice to make. Thank you.
John, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess I would just reiterate what Councilmember Stein was saying and Councilmember Schmischer. This is a case where if we do nothing, essentially the water department is losing money if we look at it that way, because they are an independent group, and they have to fund their own way, and we would be borrowing money essentially from the taxpayers, from everybody, to fund water operations. And so that's why we're talking about this in the first place, is because there's a shortfall and we've got to make it up. And if you know, it is hard. I think everyone recognizes that, but nonetheless, there shouldn't be a free lunch either.
Did you push your button, Ryan? Go ahead,
Yeah.
Ryan.
Travis, can you talk about the net effect on revenue for each of these options? Because we're talking about the same revenue pool, it's just who's paying the revenue pool.
Yeah, it's we're kind of combining two conversations in one. So when we're talking about water rate structure, it's really no change to the net of our water revenue. It's just who's paying for what. In additional conversations, we'll be talking about the 7% increases, which will then affect our bottom line. When we're talking about water rate structure tonight with options 1, 2, or 3, that really doesn't affect the water department's bottom line. When we start talking about the 7% increases, it will. So while it doesn't affect the water department, you know, I will throw that it does affect the general government bottom line. Again, going back to, you know, the beginning of the presentation, over the 3 years, it will affect city accounts by a potential of $338,000 that, you know, is not being raised anywhere else, right? So it comes from bridge funds go to parks, and then eventually funnels to general funds. So that's going to be a potential $338,000 shortfall over the 3 years that is going to have to be made up somewhere by the city. And so that's very, very significant. It's worth saying that, you know, I think there would have to be additional conversations about how the parks can come up with that kind of revenue as well. So that could be additional revenue streams through pavilion rentals, things of that nature. I mean, it's tough conversations would be coming through that. So I just really wanted to highlight that important point as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You know, we don't currently charge for pavilion rentals and things like that. You know, if we're looking at additional expenses coming out of the Parks Fund, that may be something that we'll have to look at to try and come up with the difference. It won't make up the total difference, but it is something that we could look at.
Go ahead, John.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So, but I'm a little bit confused or not understanding, but if we do option 1 for 3 years, or versus we do option 2 versus we do option 3, that's all the same revenue stream?
The revenue will be roughly the same for all 3 options. It's a matter of who's paying it. Whether or not that revenue is coming from the golf course or if it's coming from multifamily or single family. It really, it's redistributing where that revenue comes from.
That's for the top chart. The middle chart with a 7% increase, we've got to have more funds then, correct?
Right, and that's what Travis is talking about. Every year, we're still going to have that 7% increase conversation.
So in future council, I'll be introducing the ordinance for water rate increases, which will be a separate ordinance from what we're talking about tonight.
So if, let me make sure I understand, really, that there's no revenue difference. It's just a matter of who is paying for what in option 1, option 2, and option 3 on the top chart.
That is correct.
Correct.
Okay, and then the middle chart is, we would see a 7% increase in revenues.
Yeah, the middle chart shows those changes with the 7% increases, and so you can see what those numbers look like.
Yeah, the middle chart is just informative. It's really not anything that's,
Yeah.
that's being decided tonight. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear what the differences are that we're talking about. And, you know, that top block is really what we're discussing tonight.
So I think, you know, the way to look at it is, you know, if the city's paying $2.76 per 1,000 gallons today, in 2028, the city will be paying $5.44 per 1,000 gallons.
Yeah. If all 7% increases year over year were approved.
Kathy?
And that impact, that 3-year impact that I spoke about is without the 7% increases, because that's assumed that we'll be doing those, and that's across the board. The impact to the city is just the rate structure change.
John, what might help is to put it back with all of our talks about electricity rate increases. This is the phase 2 of a rate case. We know how much money we need to get, and this is how it's being divided up. I'm used to listening to it instead of thinking about charging the golf courses more, which I do agree with, versus in the electricity and gas world that I grew up in is how do we keep the low-income people still able to keep the lights on in their house and things that way. But this is the same idea on a very important commodity, and just looking at it from the water instead of the electricity and gas.
So let me restate and try and see if I have this now. So really, we've got two different So we're being asked, we've got three different ways to, with the same, I say income, but
Revenue,
with the
yep.
same effect, you know, keeping the budget the same, our revenue the same. We've got 3 different ways to do that in the top chart. Then if we're talking about doing the Rafsalis
Raftalis, yep.
7% increase, then we're in the middle chart and have the choice of 3 different ways to spread that among the ratepayers.
Yeah.
And so tonight, you want, the decision that you're asking us to do is to decide, number one, whether we want to go with a 7% increase or not.
Nope, we're not even discussing the 7% increase tonight. All we're talking about tonight is that top box. Do we want to do nothing? Do we want to phase in a full fair cost of service in option 2, or option 3, do we want to do the adjusted cost of service, which again does not lower any group user and mitigates the rises in rates for other group users. So really what we're talking about in option 2 is multi paying far less, commercial paying a bit less, and both the city and the golf courses paying far more. The adjusted cost, go ahead.
Because that's the cost.
Because that is the accounted for cost as determined by the rate study. Option 3 is nobody paying less, right? So multi still pays more than their fair share, and those savings are used to offset the cost, the additional cost in city and golf. That really is what it boils down to. Every other change is pretty minimal. Commercial's paying a bit more, their cost would go down a little bit, but not very much. Residential is paying a little bit less, their cost would go up, but not by very much. So when you distill it down, it's really talking about multis paying more than their fair share. The city and the Gulf are not paying enough. That's what it really boils down to with these options.
And so in a way, what we're being asked to do is to decide what's the best way to apportion the costs, considering that we're going to keep revenue steady. And to me, since we're not operating at revenue equals expenses in the water department, there's going to be cost increases in coming years. And because of that, it's almost sixes to me between option 2 and option 3. I mean, we get to the same place. We're going to be in 3 years. The council then will be looking at a new option 3 column, essentially, and a new option 2 columns.
I mean,
I don't know if that made sense, but.
I feel like what happened is, was it 15 years ago? We put in place the current water rates, and kind of the rates have always gone up across the board, where each user class gets the 3% or the 5% or the 7% or the 9% each year, but it doesn't change the percentage that each group is paying. So I do think that there's a huge difference between option 2 and option 3. Because option 2 ensures that everybody's actually paying what they cost. They're actually paying what their water costs them, whereas option 3 just kind of ameliorates or changes a little bit.
Correct, I stand corrected, right, I understand that, yes.
May I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Jared.
So I don't know where everyone stands on this, but the big picture here is, and I'm talking about the golf course. They're, a year or so, year and a half in, new owners, and they're really going to do great things, and there's going to be increased revenue if that project takes off, which I'm just going to be hopeful it does. So is it the cut off your nose to spite your face thing? I think we still need to support that project out there, and I understand what you're saying, Amy. Everyone should pay their fair share, but at some point, if we're into economic development and wanting to grow amenities in our town, I don't think we should put that more struggle on this company that is trying to build something out there. So that's my thought. I'm okay with option 3. I'm okay with a 7% increase. But I really think a few $100,000 in a couple years, you don't want that group to just walk away. You're talking about a lot of properties out there that will lose a lot of value. You're talking about a lot of revenue that the city gets from that golf course. I know, is anyone on this council a golfer? Anybody? Yes. Okay. It's a great golf course and people enjoy it. And I hope they build the clubhouse. I hope they build the commercial property. I hope they build the affordable housing like they're talking about. I don't want to put any more stress on them. But it is fair if option 3 with a 7% increase accomplishes this goal. That's what I am leaning towards, because that's not such a devastating blow. And I don't think our economic development budget has a couple $100,000 to subsidize the golf course. Rick, I don't know. No. So I don't think that's an option, to subsidize them out of another fund.
Kathy, go ahead.
Me?
Yes, Kathy.
Thank you. My issue is, right now, I'm looking at it, my perspective on this is looking at it from multi-family or multi-unit. It's going to be mostly apartments. And in many cases, those are the lowest income people that can get into a place to live is going to be an apartment. And they're the ones that are now subsidizing some of the other issues. And trust me, you're not going to find a bigger economic developer in the world than I am, but I also feel that the multi-unit is maybe not the ones that should be subsidizing the single family and some of the others.
I just want to say one more thing on that line. So the term disparate impact came up, and that's where you put a rule in place that unproportionately affects a group. So the golf course uses a lot of water. So they're going to be disproportionately affected as opposed to my studio apartment in a 10-unit complex. We're talking tens of dollars as opposed to $50,000, $100,000.
Still talking percentages versus quantity.
Right, but yeah, it's the same concept about one user is disproportionately affected by a rule that is meant for everyone, but it's disproportionately affecting one group of people.
John? John, go ahead.
So I think we're kind of struggling up here because we've got several topics in front of us right now. This is not a simple binary choice by any means, because right now the city is not paying its fair share. And we don't need to adjust anyone else's rates except ours. We probably should. We can adjust ours independent of whatever happens with everybody else. If we're not paying our fair share, we should start paying our fair share as a city. And that means, however that works out with our budget, but nonetheless, that's an independent issue, really, in my mind, from the whole study here. We know that we're not paying our fair share, and we should be paying our fair share as a city. Now, then we also have the issue of disparate impact. Do we want, how do we want to address people that are paying more and that are really low-income people paying more? How do we address that? And how do we address the issue of economic development with the golf course? So there's, amongst all the numbers, those are kind of the underlying issues as I see them. And so I think that for each one, we can have a different resolution rather than it's all this way or it's all that way.
Amy, go ahead.
Thanks. I would just say I wholeheartedly support the golf course and hope that it does become all that we up here on the dais and that everyone in town and that the new owners hope that it will be. And I think that we've seen already how much they're working to reduce the use of treated water. So I don't think that the hope, I would imagine that the hope is that the city would need to offset the costs of increased water from the Economic Development Fund for a limited period of time. I don't think that that we would be looking at doing that over the long term. I think that it's a kind of a couple of years of trying to offset that while they bring on one of their other streams or lines of effort that they are working towards. I did want to note that we had a question from somebody in the audience about bulk water rates. Mike Harmon noted that water is going out of town to Pueblo for marijuana farms because Pueblo won't allow them to use Pueblo water, therefore they come here. So could you just speak a little bit about the bulk water rates and kind of where that falls into the user groups, and have we looked at possibly having them pay more, particularly if they aren't Fremont County residents? Thanks.
Yep, so for bulk water, that is such a low amount of use and low amount of revenue. I don't have that in front of me, that it really doesn't move the needle when it comes to revenue or water usage in our system at least. So it really wasn't part of a user group for this study.
But it is the highest rate.
It is the highest rate. It's over $10 per 1,000 gallons.
Yeah, and it already has its own user group with its associated rate to it, and based on, I'm guessing, what our costs are to get it to the
Bulk water
to the
station.
station, that it is, that I'm guessing they're paying their fair share already.
Yeah, I mean, it's very pricey water, $10 per 1,000. When you're looking at other, even, the most expensive, next most expensive, even if we did the phased-in cost of service, would be $697, per 1,000. That's tier 3 of residential, which is designed to be more expensive to curb or to encourage conservation.
And I don't know if there is a way to charge, if we can charge Fremont County residents a different bulk water rate than the water that is going out of the community. I think that's what their question is how can, is it right that a Fremont County resident pays the 1028 where somebody who's maybe taking that water to Pueblo is also paying that same? And I'm not sure if that is something we can do or not.
So that's something we can look into.
Right.
Yeah, we
Be
generally
great,
don't
thank
ask
you.
what the user, what they're hauling water for, right? We don't ask that question. In the past, there have been marijuana farms in Pueblo that have asked whether we would give them a promise of water, and we do not do that. So we're not anybody's alternate source of water or anything like that. If they could just simply haul water and it stays in our watershed, then we generally allow that. A lot of people from Florence has had to do it that their bulk water station went out, so they had to come create a bunch of accounts. So, we allowed a lot of people from Florence to come haul some water. So, we generally don't ask what those uses are for.
And I think also if the city were in a situation where we were not able to provide the water that we needed and we needed restrictions in place, I think the bulk water station is the first thing that is shut down.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been part of the talking points. So the Water Committee has now been developing an emergency water conservation plan for if and when we ever do have to go through this. And going through a bunch of boxes, I found our last paper copy from 1997, so I thought it might be a good idea to update that. And again, when we went through the bulk water station, it just really doesn't move the needle when it comes to water usage, right? And not only does it not move the needle, but when we're talking about emergency usage, which is a little bit in the weeds right now, you're talking about people being able to live on bulk water stations by and large. Some of that is commercial, it surely is, but a lot of those people that haul water, it's to their home to be able to live. So do we really want to shut those people down when it really doesn't move the needle in the mission that we're trying to accomplish of conserving water? So we decided that it would not be part of the new emergency conservation, which is going to come before council at some point, but more important things.
Thank you.
Okay, will we be raising the cost of stormwater? Will that go up too? Because that's on the water bill.
Yeah, I think we're looking at proposing an inflationary increase this year, and that's it.
So on your water bill, you're going to see an increase in water cost, increase in stormwater, which I think is a waste of money. And so now all of a sudden the bills we're getting are going to go up. And I'm, at this point in time in this, I'm not interested in changing rates a great deal. And the golf course and the pool and a lot of things are economic development. If you build houses and you're going to get industry to come here, you'll have the jobs for those people that say they can't afford water. That's how that ball rolls. You don't start from the bottom and work up. So in my opinion, this is economic development. If you want to raise the golf course to where, especially the golf course, to an outrageous rate or a high rate, then we're going to have to help out with economic development and consider that to be a priority for economic development. Because you lose that, it goes away, it's not only embarrassing, we're going to lose industry, we're going to lose people that just won't even come here to look. We hear that now with the pool. And it has nothing to do with this, but you start raising the rates too high, I'd be against it. I don't get a vote, but I'm against it. I think maybe a moderate amount would be fine, and I'm not at all interested in raising the rates for stormwater. I think that's a huge suck. Anyway, my opinion. So we had a position, go ahead, Mr. Harriman.
Since it's become an economic development thing, or clearly was 15 years ago, whatever that was, before I was even here. So that's kind of interesting. One comment about that, though, that you're talking about how complex this is. Travis and I were literally talking the other day about what if something else pops up that we don't know. And then the next day he walked into my office and said, this popped up, and it turned out to be an economic development thing, the water rate for the golf course. One public comment, there is social media post out there about the golf course coming to the city wanting free water. That's not the case. I want to make it very clear, nobody's asking for free water, not at all, and that social media post can go away. So there's more behind that, but I'm not going to get into all that. From a taxpayer perspective, and I kind of got into this the last time in a different manner, but from a taxpayer perspective, I want my tax dollars, whether it's sales tax, property tax, whatever the case may be, one, to serve me, obviously. I need services for the taxes I pay. But I also want the community that I live in to use those tax dollars in a way that grows the community to the benefit of the people in the community. And now we're arguing about, not arguing, but we're stating different ways that we all believe that that's a possibility and should happen. But I don't, me as a taxpayer, my rates won't go down for my water. And I don't necessarily think it's a problem that multifamily is paying more than their cost for service. I don't think it's a problem that others are, what was it, just commercial? I forgot what the numbers were. Because it's the city's responsibility to manage the rates in a manner that helps the community grow. Where that need is the most is where the city needs to focus on, focus their attention, their dollars. So my expectation of a community is different probably than many others. But to make it a clear cost of service isn't necessarily in the best interest long-term of the community, even though clearly others are paying more than, now they know that they're paying more than they should. The golf course exists partially because the community wanted the golf course, and they created the golf course rate at a municipal rate to support it as a municipal benefit to the community. The challenge is now, however, that it's an amenity that's not government run, and they don't have the option to use taxpayer dollars to support their expenses or their increase in expenses. The city is going to be paying more for water. The city has the ability to use taxpayer dollars to work the budget. But we are effectively now shifting the cost of, or shifting the revenue from water, and this is a complicated topic, so forgive me if I get a little confused here. Particularly the Parks Department, you know, the $300 whatever thousand is going to cost them additionally, that now becomes a sales tax burden instead of a water burden. Simply because it's going to transfer the expense of that water into the Parks Department. The same thing if you're transferring then the economic development benefit into, or excuse me, the discount or the what's the word I'm looking for? Incentive to the golf course into the economic development, that becomes then, of course, a sales tax issue. That one probably makes more sense than the parks one, because there should be revenue being generated by economic development, if it were that simple. So I'm obviously, like I said the last time, I obviously want to have the golf course. I don't think we want to change anything right now because I think it complicates things. But it just creates some really interesting questions about how best to use the resources that come into the water department, come into the city to help the city grow. And that's a debate that'll probably go on for a long time. But I partially wanted to say that the golf course is not asking for free water. That needs to be said publicly. And I agree, it is it is an economic development thing, because we struggle so much for several reasons. You know, talk about the pool. I'm not sure the pool's going to solve that problem either. A rec center, yeah, it probably would have. But I don't know. It's economic development's extremely difficult in this community. So taking away, or not taking away, but bringing up, causing more headwinds to a development that we want to get rolling on right now is going to be a challenge. And it puts a message out there to developers that is going to be hard to overcome. There's a lot of comments out there in the community from developers, from builders, that I can't speak louder than what they're saying about our community. So of course I'm going to want to make sure that the message that we as a community, as a city, the message we're making out there is one of, we want you to come to our community and invest in our community. It's tough to put that in context of these conversations. It really is, and I totally understand where all of you are coming from. I do. But the challenge, the consequences, the research and history is just amazingly complicated. It's an amazingly complicated project. So my opinion, obviously, I'm the economic development manager. I want to keep the rates reasonable for the golf course. And they do not want free water.
Okay. Ryan?
Travis, can you clarify? I think we might have a typo in the spreadsheet. Under multi-unit option 3, it says 881. Looking at the slides, it should be 581. Is that correct?
That is correct. I did catch that on my presentation, but unfortunately I did not catch that before it went out to council. So it is correct on the presentation. It's 581 for multi on option 3 and 622 with a 7%. So I did want to clarify that. The other point to Muddy the Waters a little bit more is we thought it important to bring up the fact that multi-unit tap fees do have an incentive program on them. So for building multi-unit, there is a current incentive program to cut tap fees for multi-unit builds. And that's been going on for 4 years now, and that'll be brought before council next month to extend another 2 years. So just wanted to make sure that was brought up as well.
Has it worked?
I mean, that's a hard metric to go. I mean, there's been plenty of duplexes that have come in and used this multi-water. For the building fees, I believe it's 20 units. It has to be 20 units to get half off of their permit fees. That sound right? It's something of that nature. It's not my department, so I don't really pay attention to that. But
And I don't know anything over a duplex that's been built.
yeah, there's a fourplex, and actually they did not because they put 4 3/4 in. But
I don't think it was an incentive.
And we know that, for LIHTC projects, people that are applying for low income tax credits projects, they like having that incentive. They put that as, part of the town's incentives for trying to attract low income housing.
Well, that being the aggressor on the other side, have we gotten any of those?
We
No.
have not won any, but we've had some that are, continue to plug away at it.
Okay. Kathy?
Having listened to some of the other comments and so forth, basically around the golf course, what I think I need to remember and put into perspective is how much the golf course is doing right now. They're looking at alternatives for water and things that way, so they are investing dollars, lots of dollars probably, to be able to come up with an alternative. In some respects, because of that, this is a 3-year deal. If there's a way to cut some slack, does that make sense in the sense as far as to how much you raise it over the 3 years or whatever? I think it would be wise from the economic development and also from being able to perhaps address some of the water issues. I think if we can find and it's easy again, get that damn calculator out again to find a happy medium, because I think they do deserve a lot of credit for what they are planning and are doing right now. So I will say that it's not all or nothing from my perspective. I think it needs to find a happy medium.
Okay. Tim?
Thank you again. And I agree. I mean, I don't want to see a golf course leave our community. But I'm going to say, something was brought up, that if the city raises and that, I think there's probably a lot of people out there watching going, well, if the city raises, we know what's gonna happen to our taxes. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but that's just the way, I mean, I hate to say it, that's the way things work, because pretty soon the city's water gets raised, pretty soon their bill goes, all of a sudden we're back to, we need to raise it again because we're not having enough income coming in. I just think it's something we all need to be very aware of. Times aren't the best for a lot of people. A lot of people, they're doing fantastic. I'm not saying that. There's a median thing here. But we've got to keep in mind, you know, when we say statements of one person's, you know, one group's going to pay, they're more share in taxes. Yeah, they are, but for water, who's going to pay that? Essentially the city. Who's the city? The residents. It's just a circle. Just something we all need to be aware of. Thank you.
Amy, go ahead.
Thanks. And I really appreciate what Councilwoman Worthington just said. And I think that that's a really valuable way of looking at it, that, you know, the golf course is making all of these strides right now, and how do we offset for the next couple of years so that we allow those to come to fruition? And looking at Superintendent Payne's memo, the first year is $46,000, the second year is $93,000, which I think are much more maybe amenable to working into the economic development account line item, perhaps. But I think, I mean, if the overall goal is to get people to pay what they're actually costing and give the golf course the time to kind of get to where they need to be so that they are using raw water instead of treated water, it seems like maybe we can achieve both goals by offsetting maybe a portion of the first and second year phase-in approach.
Okay, we ought to get to a decision time, I suppose, if we all, or we could float it down the low. No, that wouldn't be appropriate, would it? Are we at a point where we want to have a discussion on the direction that they're asking for? Who would like to start? Kath? What? Or anybody else? I'm not just picking on Kathy. I'd like to, but.
Let's, in a sense, I'm looking at it, 7% is a given. You know, I'm pretty sure we've got to look at it as that we got to raise it 7%, because that's what we need to bring in to just sort of cover what we're doing. And so then if there's a way to like lower the graduated amount for the golf course, and I'm not sure exactly what percentage I'm looking at, but I think that would be that's what I'm for. So I'm sort of on option 2 with some caveats in the sense of trying to lower down the golf percentages.
Gerald.
Well, back in 2010, a council said golf courses need to have special treatment because they understand how important it is to a community. I think a 7% increase, Mr. Payne said that the golf course was open to negotiations for keeping subject to normal rate increases. So it sounds like they understand we have increased costs. So I don't think 7% in 1 year. The one thing I am confused with is 2026, 276 to 363. That's more than 7%.
I'm sorry, which one
in
were
your
you
middle
looking at?
column where you have the 7% increases?
Yep.
So 276 currently to 363 in 2026, that's more than 7%.
No, it's a stepped-in increase of the base rate plus a 7%.
Plus 7%.
Yep.
So it's the top column plus 7%.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So, in my opinion, if option 3 satisfies our water needs for the time being, and then we just have to revisit this every year, that would be my opinion. Option 2 is, and I'm just going to the golf course again, that it's going to be discouraging. So I would vote option 3 with nominal you know, everyone gets a cost of living raise, so the water department can get a cost of living increase.
Boy, we've got so much, so many different ways to slice and dice this. And because of that, because we're not being asked for just a decision, we're being asked for multiple decisions here, actually. You know, I'm kind of in favor of perhaps Councilmember Mischer's approach, which is to raise the rate but offset it with other funds, economic development funds or something like that, for the golf course. But I think the city needs to start paying its fair share, whatever that is. And I would make a point too that if we're in rough economic times for our citizens, the city may have to tighten its belt also. Just because we've got to find some more money in our budget to do something doesn't mean we need to go ask for tax increases for that money. It means that perhaps we have to find it a different way. And perhaps some of those ways hurt a little bit as we're looking at our budget. But so I think the city needs to be paying its fair share, whatever that is. And I don't think that we necessarily need a graduated approach for that. We should probably start doing that yesterday. But I am in favor of some carrot out there for the golf course, however we can do that. But I also think that the rates need to go up, and so that's probably as clear as mud in terms of direction, but
It's clear now.
Is there something that I've missed?
Nope, I don't
In
believe
terms
so.
of
I think I got your opinion.
Okay, thank you.
And I agree as far as the city. Definitely manning up and doing what they should be doing.
Well, I think the 7%, I'm okay with that, but I would ask Mr. Harmon to come up, if he will. And what I'd like to ask you is that can you come up with along with people at the golf course, a proposal that we could look at? Because I do think that it's important that we have that particular activity in our town as far as economic development.
A proposal specific to water incentive?
Sure. What? Go ahead.
A budgetary proposal, is that essentially what you're asking for?
Yeah, something that we could afford possibly, and something that would keep them on their trajectory of improving out there and improving and making the growth in that area.
I'm sure we can work on something. I'm sure we can come up with something, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll take a look at history, projections, and figure out what that can be.
Because it's economic development is very important. In my business, I hear and see it all the time, and I know of people that would like to see other things here. We don't have it, and the question is, how come?
Do you want this prior to making I mean, you're giving him direction right now on
Right.
ordinance. Do you want this prior to a reading of an ordinance?
Yeah, if you can. I would like to, yes.
Okay.
Capable?
I'll get with Travis on the schedule.
Okay. Let's give that a try. That's my opinion.
And I'm just going to say really quick, I kind of agree with John and that, and kind of we're going with, the option 2 and running that, and like Amy said, maybe an incentive, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think that the fair way forward would be option 2, and some kind of support through planning for our development for the golf course, because, you're right, they can't make it if we don't support them. But we do need to look at some numbers. What are they going to need? Or is it just going to be the difference in what they're paying? Is that what they would, because.
That's considering what they're working on now, that's kind of a loaded question. I mean, it's
Right,
going to be
right.
kind of like, what do you expect to see to, that we, I mean, we could couch it into development, we could couch it into the pool, golf course only, we, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think just to go forward right now with what council has to decide, and Travis needs
Specific to water
answers.
rates.
Yeah, is
Yeah,
to be,
yeah.
you know, this, to start with that phase,
yeah.
phase two, to make it more, and for the city will be paying their fair share too. But, you know, if there's some way that we can support them in the budget, and I would say, whatever it is, it shouldn't exceed the difference, whatever they have to come up with to pay for treated water. And they, you know, that might even be, and, you know, have some timelines with it so that it might make sense for them to, I know and I know this from several reporters, that they are trying to find a way to get the untreated water. And, I mean, we're ready to help them with that, with the actual water, but they have to figure out how to get it to the golf course. So and it's going to be very expensive. And that's really hard. So, you know, maybe to start with, we can help them with the difference, albeit from a different fund, not through our water fund. So, and then maybe down the road, if they need some other help, we could look at that at that point in time, and, you know, just see where they are with their plans and moving ahead. But just to get them started, some kind of money from another pot that's not coming out of the water fund to help them, just with the difference maybe to start. Thanks.
I can work on that. The challenge that I see is that this will become then an annual budget request review, just as parks will have to deal with it. And then it takes it out of the realm of water into the realm of city council determination on budget. And I think that will be a challenge in the future. This time, obviously, if you're willing to create something, then great. We all know that sales tax are down right now considerably, so come up with the money somewhere else is not going to be easy to do. But yeah, we can work on it. Certainly, we can work on that. Yeah,
Well,
happy to.
I agree with you. We're just taking money from another resource. That doesn't make any sense.
It's just shifting.
If we can structure this that the water department is happy with and not negatively affect the golf course and let them move on with their operations and their plans, why would we start moving money around to subsidize? That doesn't make any sense to me. We have an option on the table that does not negatively impact the golf course, and it doesn't, like you said, it raises some a little here and there. Everyone's not paying their fair share, but, you know, I think this is real important. We need to really think this through. I can't even imagine what would happen if the golf course struggled anymore and decided to stop their plans.
The water department will remain whole. We know that. Parks department won't.
But the economic impact of
economic
something like
impact
that
of something
is
like that,
absolutely
yeah.
devastating. And
Yeah.
I think that we need to treat them as a community partner and not as we're worried about they're not paying their fair share of water right now. I won't say any more about that.
I think we have to look at our history with golf courses. We have pumped a lot of resources into the previous company that was out there. I'm not comparing them. I'm not saying the current people, you know, aren't going to move forward and make this happen. I'm just saying that as a small town, we have spent a lot to keep a golf course here. And I just think water, we're in Colorado, folks. We're in the High Plains Desert. Water is like gold, and it's getting harder to provide. And so I just think that we need to be able to find funds from somewhere else.
I agree. I mean, I think that we need to make sure that the golf course has the runway to be able to get off the ground successfully. I think that that does need to be time-bound. You know, they are under new owners, and they do have a lot of momentum right now, and we need to make sure that we're not hamstringing that. But I don't agree that it's just kind of different accounts, because the water is an enterprise fund, and that is the business's money. It's not our money. It's every other business in town. So I think that if we truly believe that it's an economic development issue, then we need to take a hard look at the city budget and make sure that we are funding it as an economic development issue. And we need to hear, I love Mayor Troutman's suggestion that we hear from our economic development manager and the golf course as to what they do need and what that runway looks like, so that we can plan for that in our city budget. So, thanks.
If we concluded anything here that is clear, what would you glean, Travis, as the direction that you think you've heard here? And Tammy, would it be fair to ask you to repeat that?
look
What
like
you
that?
think? What you think? It's yeah. Would you tell?
Oh, sorry, do you have another hour 15?
No.
No, what I've heard is vast majority is asking for option 2, but it is very important to council that we give the golf course a chance to get off the ground. That everybody, that the water rate structure can be structured in such a way that everybody does pay their fair share, but it's very important that the golf course has the economic help to get going for the next few years for sure, especially since they're getting closer and closer to a raw water solution. Sound about right?
Is that what we said? Yes, I think you're, maybe a little more eloquently than I did, but yes, I think that's getting us close. And Mr. Harmon, you're going to follow up with something for us then?
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, any comments from you?
We'll work on something and present it at the budget workshop.
Okay, and so then what this will appear before us is as a, on city council meeting next time, or?
I think we'd probably want to we need to schedule that budget workshop and have that discussion first, so you can see
Okay.
the impacts of what this actually means.
Okay, great, so that everything will stay the same the way it is right now.
Yeah, the goal would be to have this instituted by Jan 1, so we do
Okay.
have a bit of time, but you know,
Okay.
it was never the intent first and second reading would be in September or anything like that. It'd be more November, December.
Well, I would take Ryan's point. I'd also like to see the numbers. Okay. Oh, John, go ahead. John, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I have a motion.
Oh, yes, make a motion. Please,
think,
get me
Is
out of
is
here.
there anything else that we need?
No, there's nothing else, but I think these are two separate meetings, so we need to close the vision
Oh,
meeting and
really?
open the executive session.
Then I hereby adjourn the Vision Committee meeting for the 20th of August.
And if we can give Brandon